Deaders have discovered an entry into my world, my domain. But they can only complete their journey through you, Amy Klein. And your only way back is through me now. I am your redeemer. I am the way.
No!
25 days is not a lot of time to shoot a movie, particularly a complex script like Deader. So once we finalized the script and found out how that translated into shooting days, the first thing we needed to do was to pare down the pages. The writer of Deader, Neil Marshall Stevens, had really brilliantly written a story and dialogue, but once it was changed along the way into a Hellraiser sequel, there were several scenes that just really did not work anymore within the mythology. In the best case scenario is you would have weeks of rehearsal and you could be working with writers and people can sort of trim dialogue. But on this schedule, it's so fast-paced, I didn't mind at all, and it just made it for better and more believable dialogue to just be making those editorial decisions on the day.
Well, for cutting that whole speech about your father, and he gets up and he puts a cigarette
I've got to get the right line for it, though, because I can't say run down twice.
No. For the most part, we stuck really closely to the shooting script, but you definitely make changes along the way, and the actors were really, really good about making suggestions to making the script better. I brought my digital video camera to Romania so I can go and shoot during the location scouting. I'd have my assistant Maria walk for me. We'd go through the script together and I'd tell her about the characters and their positions and where I thought they might be moving and just sort of lay out the whole sequence. And then we'd cut sequences and look back at the timing and the blocking and how things just might be able to work. I actually made use of this during the opening title sequence because we only had that office building for I think about 4 hours, which is not a lot of time to shoot an elaborate title sequence like that. Considering the crew has to come in, rehearse, block, etc., etc. I think we had about 2 hours of actual shooting time in that location. It just helped me be as efficient as possible when we finally did get there on the day.
The pace of making this movie was, it was extreme. It was, the longest day imaginable on a film set that we could, get away with the crew. And yeah, I was in every scene, start to finish. And it was grueling. And I was literally in tears the whole time because I had to maintain this level of emotion. And sometimes you're so exhausted that you want to phone it in. But I would look at Rick Boda and we knew that we had something special here.
Kari and I had a lot of laughs making this movie. She's got a great sense of humor. And we probably had more fun than we should have and laughed at some times when we shouldn't have. And I think that some of it was just nervous laughter just to help get us through the horror and the darkness of some of the stuff and the content that we were shooting. Because she'd be like having full of blood or full of chains all over her face and knives in the back and we're just like cracking up.
Ching, ching, ching!
It's going to be all over you.
It got so good at snapping sort of into the moment and into comedy. We just kept every emotion at this extreme level. So even though we were like in this horror, in these moments of terror and horror, the laughter and the silliness would be just as high, so you could just slide right into the horror again, it was all up here. It was so great. It was such a workout.
Back down.
You think, how am I gonna do this in front of the crew? How am I gonna scream and just get hysterical and because you're talking in one and then it's action and you're just right there and you gotta be right there, and how do you do that in front of this crew? And everybody became invisible, especially Gary, and he just became like somebody that helped me really feel the moment. So Gary Tunnicliffe, I think is I hope isn't, but seems to be a dying breed. I mean, he is hands-on special effects. It's his life. He's also an actor, so he sort of understands where we come from, and he's an artist, an incredible artist. So he designs, he sculpts. But the most amazing thing about Gary Tunnicliffe was he invented this fake blood that, and I've worked with fake blood a lot, and it just doesn't come off your hands, and it certainly doesn't come off your clothes. And he invented this blood that's just the best. I don't know what's in it, but it washes off, it looks more real, so you can do take after take and just keep washing up and your hands don't stain red and it doesn't stick in your hair. I love Gary Tunnicliffe. Gary Honeynose, I call him.
Not only does Gary do all the blood and the makeup and the gore and the effects makeup, he also does all the Pinhead stuff. He's also a very talented director himself, so having there was a real bonus for the production because we could shoot all the main actors in the big scenes and shoot out all the dialogue with the close-ups and whatever we needed for our main talent. And then we would just leave all the insert kind of work of the hands and anything that had to do with the box. In fact, pretty much throughout the whole show, anytime there's somebody's back or hands and not featuring the main actor, we'd have doubles and Gary Tunnicliffe could go off and do the sort of cleanup work for us and do a great job at it.
If you're gonna do a scary movie, you want to do it in Romania, you know? It just worked.
Although I'd rather be shooting pictures in Los Angeles, it's a great place to make a movie. The crews are fantastic. Castel Films, who are the production company of Bucharest, had these brand new stages built on the outskirts of town. Given that and the money that we saved, we were able to get a 25-day shooting schedule out of not a lot of money. It actually paid off very well for us. It was really interesting shooting there because people aren't used to seeing films shot on an everyday basis like they are, say, here in Los Angeles. I don't really think people knew what we were doing unless they walked right up close to us, and even then, I don't think they really cared that we were making movies. For instance, in the subway sequence, we would be down there at one end, and people would be coming and going on the other trains at the other end and would barely even give us a glance. And often, if they were, we could sort of filter them in through the shots and use them as cheap background. And I think they enjoyed doing it, and it certainly worked for us.
Filmmaking is such a privilege that I find that anywhere I go, people are really, really committed to it and really enjoy it because it's a process that's like nothing else in the world. And I think that especially in Romania, people were really appreciative of having their jobs and knowing that they were creating something that was very, very different from the energy of their own country, you know.
Once we were told that this movie was going to be shot for budget reasons in Eastern Europe, the bright side was that I was going to be able to work with another DP from another country. Vivi Dragan is a Romanian cinematographer whose reel had exactly what I was looking for. The quality of his lighting looked like a Vermeer painting, the natural and gorgeous light, so I thought it would be perfect for the look of this movie. The challenge was that of all the people, he spoke the least amount of English, which I was immediately afraid of, but then reassured that it shouldn't become a problem. And we have a couple people here. We really had very little problem communicating on the majority of the work. It was very easy to figure out camera placement and lighting placement. It was just in the fine details and the explaining of things that I think he was more traditional. So things like odd camera movements and on lighting decisions that just didn't come as easily to him, and they were a little bit more difficult to communicate.
Vivi, I'm wondering if we took, like I love what you did with the other window. Maybe we can lower this down and put another piece of orange on this. Maybe N6 or something, so it's dark, but it still has some illumination. And you can still get.
I think he was thinking that he was doing an American movie, and I was thinking I was doing a European movie. He wanted to add lights, I wanted to subtract lights. And given the language difficulties, there were times that we definitely... We scouted just about every single subway system in Romania. On the onset, we were told, go down, scour the systems, and see what station works best for you, and we'll make it work for you. So I had gone through all these wonderful, old, decayed subway stations throughout Romania, and of course we found the one that worked perfect for us. It was big and old, and it was the creepiest of the group. And then just as we were finalizing the logistics to shoot there, we were told that no, you can't actually shoot there. There's only one that you're able to shoot at. And it was the newest subway. It hadn't even opened yet. When I first saw it, I wasn't really crazy about it because it was not what we had seen on the scouting, and it was not what I had visualized. The other ones had been old and decayed, and this one was very new, had this gray marble throughout and these big stone pillars in the middle. But it did have this certain quality to it that ended up working for the picture. So we ended up shooting there with the lights that were inside, the fluorescent lights, uncorrected. And I thought Vivi gave it a great look, and it just ends up having this very chilling morgue quality through the subway stations, and I think it worked very well for the picture.
Working in the subway was we were all really tired, and the lights were really uncomfortable, and I had to run around a lot, and I was getting like, you know, Charlie horses, but we just had to do it because we didn't have so much time where the subways would be up and running again. And there was a lot of confusion, and God, Rick really takes control of the set though, and really made it work. And even though we needed another couple days in there, we got what we needed, you know. It was fun.
So there were many people that allowed us to make this film and to make it look as good as it did. Vivi, certainly, his work and his lighting. but also behind the scenes, Ron Schmidt, our producer from Los Angeles, who just did an outstanding job. I thought he was just really creative, and he just did a tremendous job of getting me anything and everything that I wanted within the budget. Another important collaborator on the making of the movie was our production designer, Cristi Niculescu, who was probably one of the top designers in Romania, if not in Eastern Europe. We looked at a lot of resource material. We spent hours and hours looking at books and magazines and other movies together. And then we spent hours and hours driving around the city and looking at buildings and just feeling the textures of the city and trying to incorporate as much as we could into the making of the picture.
Every day I would look at the production design and set design, and I was just amazed. It didn't seem like we had the budget for it, but the people out there just were, in Romania, were just completely creative. And we had the inside of the Debtor train, which was just graffitied with doll parts and tattoo artists and lesbians. And it was just, I walked in there for the first time and saw all these naked people and blood and just like weird hooks and things going on. And I was freaked out. It really was, it worked, man. It was scary.
I'm looking for a girl named Katya and a man named Winter.
The plot thickens.
One sequence I was always nervous about shooting was the knife in the back sequence, when Amy Klein wakes up with a knife in her back. And I always feared that it was one of those sequences that read really well in the script, but it was going to be difficult to interpret on film. I was always anticipating the laughs that we would get when Kari would come walking out of the trailer with this rubber knife stuck in her back, and indeed as we walked on the set, we had all the jokes lined up for her, and it's tough to make it believable there on the day. We've got all the blood, we've got the whole set and the bathroom all set and lit, and people are watching from all different angles. And it's not until Kari kicks into that performance that she gave and made it horrific. To her credit, she just gave it her all, no holds barred.
It was me and Rick in this bathroom. I think the crew was even getting ready to go to lunch or something. We just had, no, I think it was the end of the day. Everybody was tired. I had been in and out of blood-stained clothes all day. It was cold. I'm constantly wet and having to be dried off. It was freezing. And we just said, let's just go for it. So he's got the camera on one shoulder and he's looking at lighting, he's looking at possible shots, and I'm in this state of horror the whole time, covered in blood. We locked eyes and we just knew that if we didn't fully commit, forget about the elements, the sticky blood, the cold, forget it. Forget about the time constraint, let's do it. And we just started filming. And I went for stuff and he followed me, and there wasn't any set choreography. It was all motivated by the emotion, by the horror. And he followed me everywhere I went, and I followed his leads, and there was this silent communication. It was brilliant. It was so great. And the people that were around watching, some of the crew that had stuck around watching, everybody was just kind of like, and in Romanian, people didn't really speak English. The crew was, semi in English, so they could speak. But this translates in every single language, just pure horror and screaming and this blood, and it was fantastic. I loved it.
One of the biggest challenges that we faced was the final battle sequence. It was a very effects-driven sequence. We knew it was going to take quite a bit of time to shoot and to build, and a good part of the budget just went towards that final sequence. Jameson Goey, our visual effects supervisor, flew out, and we had a small miniature set built, and these little clay figures that I would walk through, and we'd be placing them around and walking and taking the cameras, my little digital camera, and laying it down at the level of the clay figures and actually rehearsing on this little model that we had built. It just helped us minimize the expense of the sets because we knew all of the shots. We actually didn't finish parts of the set because we knew that we'd never see them. As a matter of fact, one of the shooting days we cut short and just gave us a few hours at the end of the day to all sit down and just do a walkthrough and a blocking rehearsal so that we could know exactly where people were, how we were going to do it, and trying to maximize the 4 days that we had in there. There's a lot of work to do in 4 days.
You want to show my face?
Let all the pain go. It is time for you to finish your journey.
He let me tap into all my resources and help me open myself up to challenges. And an actor can't ask for anything more than that. And it was safe. He made it a safe place for me.
I don't think so. Go to hell.
I sort of fucked up.
Okay, guys, if we could, here's what would be really great. Everybody just stop what they're doing. Let's stop. Let's just stop. Hold it. Stop. Just whatever you're going to do right now, do it at this tone. Just don't talk. Do what you got to do to reload. Whatever you got to do, and let's shoot again. But please don't talk.
Well, when you're working with a director who doesn't create a safe environment, you're working with somebody who isn't really respecting the comfort you need on a set to open yourself up to expressing very, very difficult emotions, because you're not really simulating these emotions as much as you are experiencing them. He's almost going to be like a therapist in that way. Create a place where he respects and watches over you to know that if something is not going right, you're not going to spin out of control. That the priority is always going to be the danger you put yourself in to get to that place. And any good director is going to want to create that safe place, because the farther you go, the better your performance, the better the film, the bigger the payoff.
I'm very enthusiastic about the process. I love making movies, and I love getting in there on the day and just getting the shot and doing whatever it takes to getting a job done and just making it the best it can possibly be.
You know, this horror genre now is my new favorite thing, because you so get to run the gamut. And at the end of the day, you're exhausted and you're purged, and you feel like you've been in therapy, and that glass of wine tastes so good.